What if the rise in teen anxiety is not a mystery at all, but the predictable result of a rapid experiment on childhood? Picture a 12-year-old who used to ride bikes with friends after school. Now they rush home to chase notifications, compare selfies, and scroll into the night. If you have ever wondered why kids seem more anxious, fragile, and lonely, despite being more connected than ever, stay with me. This summary will show you how a phone based childhood reshaped the developing brain, what it is doing to mental health, and what families, schools, and communities can do to rebuild a healthier path. The Anxious Generation is written by social psychologist Jonathan Haidt. He connects the dots between neuroscience, child development, and the cultural shift that turned childhood from play based to phone based in about a decade. The book matters because it offers both a clear diagnosis and a set of practical solutions. Instead of blaming parents or kids, it explains the hidden incentives and design choices that made this shift feel inevitable and shows how we can reverse course together. Here's the core idea in one breath. Children need real world play, independence, sleep, and face to face relationships to grow strong. When those ingredients were replaced by smartphones and social media during the most sensitive years of brain development, anxiety and depression climbed. The fix is not a single app or rule. It is rebuilding the environment around kids so that healthy development becomes the default again. Let's unpack the main ideas and then we'll end with simple steps you can start today. First, the great rewiring of childhood. For most of human history, kids learned by moving, exploring, negotiating rules with friends, and solving small problems without adults. That messy play built social skills, courage, and a sense of competence. Around the early 2010s, two trends collided. We tightened safety in the physical world, limiting free play and independence. At the same time, we loosened the gates to the virtual world, handing kids devices that deliver infinite novelty and social evaluation. The result was a swap. Outdoor playtime dropped, screen time and social media filled the gap. A middle schooler who once met friends at the park now meets them in group chats, comment threads, and algorithmic feeds. Imagine Mia, age 13. 10 years earlier, she might have biked to a friend's house, argued over rules for a game, and returned at dusk with a scraped knee and a story. Today, she sits on her bed editing a post, refreshing for likes, and navigating a blurry mix of friends and strangers. The challenge is not that the internet is evil, it is that the new setup deprives Mia of the very experiences that teach resilience. One small way to apply this idea is to schedule a weekly device free block for active play. Invite neighbors, open the backyard, and let kids run the show with minimal adult interference. At first, it may feel awkward. Within a few weeks, the rhythm returns and kids remember how to invent games and solve small conflicts. Second, the social media trap and why it hits girls and boys differently. Social platforms are not neutral tools. They're built to maximize time on site by rewarding content that triggers emotion. For a developing brain, that means constant micro hits of social approval and frequent jolts of comparison and exclusion. Group chats never sleep. Photos invite judgment. The feed highlights everyone else's best moments, filtered and staged. Many girls get pulled into appearance based evaluation and relational drama. Boys are more likely to vanish into immersive gaming, pornography, or endless video loops. The common result is less sleep, less attention, and less in person interaction. Think of a teen who checks a post before bed. A few likes arrive, then a teasing comment. Now the heart rate climbs, the mind starts spinning, and the phone stays within reach all night for fear of missing something. The next morning brings exhaustion and dread. The application here is straightforward and powerful. Make bedrooms phone free and set a household charging station outside sleeping areas. Use a simple alarm clock. If you're a parent, do it alongside your kids to make the rule feel fair. You'll probably face resistance. Hold the boundary for 2 weeks and watch sleep and mood improve. Third, the loss of free play and the rise of overprotection. Many adults grew up walking to school, climbing trees, and learning that they could handle small risks. In recent decades, fear of rare dangers pushed us to supervise nearly every minute. We also placed more weight on academic and extracurricular achievement. That combination left kids with less time to roam and fewer chances to practice independence. Paradoxically, when we protect children from all friction, they don't learn how to cope with discomfort. Anxiety then feels more intense because it was never exercised in small doses. Consider Jamal, age 10, who is never allowed to go to the nearby store alone. His parents drive him everywhere and solve problems quickly. He's safe, but he doubts his own abilities. One day, his teacher assigns a group project with moving parts. Jamal freezes, worried he'll make a mistake. A small way to apply this idea is to give kids age appropriate freedom in steps. Start with a simple errand to a known location. Agree on rules and a time to return. Celebrate success. Next month, expand the radius. Over time, the child's map of the neighborhood grows, along with a quiet confidence that calms anxiety from the inside out. Second, attention, learning, and the developing brain. Smartphones are designed to fragment focus. Notifications interrupt deep work. Multitasking teaches the mind to skim rather than to stay. For young brains still wiring executive functions, this constant switching crowds out the practice needed for sustained attention. Schools feel the effects when students struggle to read long texts or to resist checking devices in class. Teachers then compete with a machine that knows each student's preferences better than any adult. Picture a classroom where half of the students keep phones in their pockets. Even when they don't look, part of their attention is aimed at the possibility of a ping. The solution isn't shaming, it's redesign. Phone-free schools during the day protect focus for everyone. If your school hesitates, propose a pilot in one grade with simple phone lockers or pouches. Pair the change with more engaging instruction and active breaks so students don't feel deprived. At home, create daily windows for deep work without devices. Start with 25-minute blocks and build up. It's amazing how quickly a quiet brain remembers to concentrate. Fifth, community norms beat solo rules. Many parents feel isolated. If you delay a smartphone or social media, your child may feel left out. But when families coordinate, the pressure flips. The book suggests clear norms that work best when adopted together. Delay smartphones until high school or until age 16, and delay social media until at least 16 as well, when self-control is stronger. Make schools phone-free from bell to bell. Expand opportunities for free play, clubs, sports, and service so kids have a rich offline life. None of this requires perfect compliance. It requires enough families and schools to move in the same direction so that healthy behavior becomes normal again. Here's a story that shows the power of norms. A small group of parents met in the living room and agreed to hold off on smartphones for middle school. They drafted a simple pledge and invited other families to join. Within a month, most of the grade signed on. The kids still used shared devices at home for homework or entertainment, but social media stayed off the table. The result was fewer late-night dramas, more sleepovers, and a culture where it was cool to be present. Your application is to gather 3 to 5 families and make a shared plan. Choose the boundaries you want, write them down, and check in monthly. Small coalitions grow quickly once people see that they're not alone. Of course, technology is not the only factor in rising anxiety. Economic stress, political conflict, and the pandemic all shape the landscape. But the phone-based shift is one of the few levers we can pull directly. It operates every day in bedrooms, classrooms, and bus rides. The brain follows the environment. If we change the environment, the brain adapts. That's a hopeful message because it means progress is within reach. Let's knit these ideas together with practical steps. Begin with sleep. Move phones out of bedrooms and set a digital sunset 1 hour before bedtime. Replace late scrolling with the wind-down routine like a shower, light reading, or quiet music. Next, reclaim play. Pick one afternoon a week for unstructured time with nearby kids. Rotate homes and keep adults in the background unless safety is at risk. Then rebuild independence. Create a small ladder of challenges such as walking a familiar route, buying an item at a store, or planning a simple meal. Finally, coordinate with others. Talk to parents, coaches, and school leaders about phone-free norms and later adoption of social media. When adults align, kids relax because the rules are consistent. If you're a teenager listening to this, you have more power than you think. Try a 7-day experiment where you remove social apps from your phone and use them only on a computer at set times. Tell a friend and do it together. Notice your mood, sleep, and focus by the end of the week. If it helps, keep going. Curate your feeds toward learning and inspiration. Most importantly, invest in a few face to face friendships. Those are the relationships that buffer stress and last the longest. If you're a parent, lead with empathy rather than fear. Acknowledge that screens bring fun, connection, and convenience. Share that your goal is not to punish, but to protect the parts of childhood that make life richer. Offer trade offs. When phones are off in the evening, plan something enjoyable like a walk, a game, or a late dessert run. When social media is delayed, support clubs and sports that meet the need for belonging. Kids will push back, keep the door open for conversation, and keep the boundaries steady. Over time, trust grows. For educators, your influence is huge. When social media is delayed, support clubs and sports that meet the need for belonging. Kids will push back, keep the door open for conversation, and keep the boundaries steady. Over time, trust grows. For educators, your influence is huge. Consider starting the year by setting a shared expectation that phones stay secured during class and transitions. Explain the why. Students want to succeed. Make lessons more active with debates, labs, or projects that tap curiosity. Use technology on purpose rather than by default. Partner with families so students hear a unified message at home and at school. And when possible, add supervised free play back into the day, especially in the early grades, because those experiences build the social foundations that academics rest on. Let's wrap up with a quick summary of key takeaways. Childhood changed fast. We traded free play and face to face time for a diet heavy in screens and social media during a critical window of brain development. That swap correlates with rising anxiety, depression, sleep problems, and attention struggles. Social platforms amplify comparison and drama, especially for girls, while boys may drift into solitary digital worlds. Overprotection in the real world removed the small challenges that build competence. The path forward is environmental, not just individual. Delay smartphones and social media until kids are ready. Make bedrooms and schools phone free. Rebuild free play and independence step by step. Coordinate with other families and educators so kids are not singled out. When we shift the environment, we give children back what they need most: connection, confidence, and room to grow. If this message resonates, consider reading The Anxious Generation for the full research and practical playbooks. Even better, use this video as a conversation starter with your family, your school, or your community group. What one change could you make this week to protect sleep, restore play, or strengthen focus? Share your experiences in the comments. If you found value here, subscribe for more book summaries that turn big ideas into everyday actions. And check out our related episode on building attention habits in a distracted world. Together, we can make childhood feel lighter, stronger, and far less anxious.